Hey everyone, so today we'll be starting with our first lesson for physics, and it's going to be on kinematics, like I said in the previous info video. So in this, we're going to be splitting it up into one-dimensional motion and two-dimensional motion. So one-dimensional motion only deals with motion in the x direction or the y direction. What is motion? Motion is how an object's position changes over time. And that's essentially the study in kinematics. We're studying how an object is moving. So, just to preface, for the AP Physics 1 curriculum, it's very equation focused. It requires a lot of visualization of the problem plus a manipulation of the equations that you have. So generally, the way that problems are is that you'll be given a lot of variables. Let's say you're given time, velocity, acceleration. We'll discuss these terms in a bit, but you're given some of these variables, but you need to figure out which equation that you're given is able to find the unknown. So you have to use your knowns to figure out the unknown, and that's basically the basis of AP Physics 1. So for one-dimensional motion, we'll first take a look at the x direction equations. So for the first equation, it's Vx is equal to V naught x plus axt. So what do these variables mean? So what Vx means in the context of these equations, Vx is final velocity. And one thing to keep in mind when tackling physics problems is that velocity and speed are different. Speed is a value without direction. It is just a magnitude, whereas velocity has both a magnitude and direction. Velocity is a vector value, which is something with magnitude and direction. And similarly, there's displacement. Displacement measures the uh, the area in which the object is moving. So you'll also have a negative displacement. But distance, on the other hand, is just the absolute value of that. It's just the magnitude of that quantity. And that thus, when people think about physics, they always think speed is equal to distance over time. But when you're talking to educated physics peers, the real concept that you need to know, especially for kinematics, is velocity is equal to displacement over time. So now that we've gone over what Vx is equal to, let's go over what V naught x is. Vx naught, or V naught x, is the initial velocity. Ax is the acceleration. T is time. And then x is final position. And then x naught is initial position. So with that being said, you're able to use all of these equations to solve your problems. And we'll go into more depth about how to solve problems in a future video. But for now, I'll discuss some other key equations that it's good to know for the purposes of AP Physics 1. Okay, so some key things to look at is what is the delta symbol mean? Delta means change in. So when I say change in x, I mean x final minus x initial, which is also equal to, in this case, x minus x naught. Similarly, uh, it'll exist for time, delta t, which is the final time minus the initial time. And one thing to note is when you're solving problems, a lot of the time, initial time is just equal to 0. So realistically, your delta t, a lot of the time, will just be t final. Some other equations that are good to know is v average is equal to delta x over delta t. And this is just your basic velocity is equal to displacement over time. Similarly, however, average velocity is also equal to v velocity final plus velocity initial over 2. And this makes sense because when you're taking the average of something, it's equating the minimum and the maximum and dividing it by 2. So that's your velocity average. And using both of these equations, you can also come up with this new equation. So let's try it out. And look at that. We just got a new equation for what delta x is equal to. So in AP Physics 1, a big portion of it is being able to manipulate the equations that you're given to find new variables or find out ways to solve, creative ways to solve for different variables. A lot of the times on the AP test, they won't ask for numeric values. They'll ask for a how to derive a variable. And something like this is what they would look for. Whether you're using the right equations to get the right answer. So that's all for this video. In the next video, I'll discuss the same information but for the y direction variables. I'll see you next time.